everybody. It's Laurie-Ann here, and my guest is just grabbing some water. She was a little surprised that she was going to be on the show today. Today is day 3. Just doing, it's September. It's National Self-Improvement Month, and, on the first day we talked about how to position you as an expert. So if you didn't get a chance to see that live stream, hop on over there. And yesterday was all about stories. So I am just going to, this is Annette.
Hello.
Let's see. Discard. I'm just going to share this to a couple of groups if you want to just kind of introduce yourself.
Okay. My name's Annette Fazio. I'm Annette Fazio. I owned Fazio's restaurant for 20 years. I lived in New England. Nobody accepted the way I said my name. I had the restaurant for 20 years. I would say it was a lot of fun. It was fun because it was challenging and it was self-fulfilling and that people loved my food. But it was a lot of work. I'm grateful I did it. I'm grateful I had the opportunity. And at one point, I had almost 80 employees. If I had to do that again right now, there's no telling what institution I would wind up in.
So actually, just hearing Annette talk about her employees, I just have to tell you, it's like, so share some of the there were a couple of questions before you hired somebody that, her retention rate for employees was amazing.
Huh. Well, it wasn't so much about what I asked them, but it was about what they wanted to tell me. I wanted to know what was important to them. My reason for starting a restaurant was I was a single mother, and I wanted a place to go that I could go that was nice and pleasant, and I didn't have to take out a loan when I would go in to bring my children. And I wanted people to enjoy good food, good home cooking. And I wanted people to be happy when they were in my restaurant. So therefore, I wanted my wait staff to feel the same way. And for a very long time, I was committed to never hiring anybody that was younger than me.
At what point did you decide?
Well, I was mid-30s when I started the restaurant. And I was in business for 20 years, and after a while, I definitely had to give up that ghost. But it really worked out to everybody my age.
Yeah. So Annette is a fellow, not only is she a good friend of mine, but she's also a fellow speaker. So as the title of this is, it's 2 speakers jump on a live stream. What could possibly go wrong?
Let me count the ways.
Right. So Annette, how long have you been speaking?
I actually started my speaking career in 2005.
Very good. And Annette used to work for a seminar company.
I did. First I did my own speaking, and then I thought it would be fun to go work for a seminar company. Not so much.
Not so much. So I thought, I was sharing with somebody yesterday because I told them that we were going to be talking about this, and maybe perhaps we can talk about some of our funnier stage moments, and I'll start to give you a minute to think about this. I think I shared this last night. I was working for an MLM company, and you have to get up there, you have to do the presentation. Well, I was caught totally off guard, and they just said, "Laurie-Ann, you get up there and do that." And I got up, I started laughing, literally giggling, laughing so hard, and then I was just I'm trying to excuse myself. Well, I just heard a really funny joke, can't seem to get it out of my mind, and finally I just had to tell somebody else, you need to come up here and do this. I could not stop laughing. I'm not sure if that's my sign of nervousness or what, but
could be.
Do you have one?
Well, actually,
a funny moment on stage?
Well, I
got
literally
others.
started on stage in my restaurant. I would come out of the kitchen and I would talk to the customers. But see, this voice is not soft. You got your basic stage whisper, whether you want it or not. And I'd be talking to one and I would see this table looking. Not because they were annoyed, because they wanted in on the conversation. And then I'd turn around, and before I knew it, I was talking to like 4 or 5 tables. And at the same time, and then somebody would ask me, and my brain was going, "You need to get out of here." So somebody would ask one thing, and I'd go, "Up, my cue, got to go back in the kitchen." So that's how I would get away. I would say the silliest moment I had was I told a joke.
How did it go?
I forgot the punchline. and instead of freaking out because I forgot the punchline, I just kind of looked at the group and went, "Talk amongst yourselves. I'm sure this will come up in a minute." And it did almost instantly. And a couple of people came up to me afterwards and said, "I have to tell you that talk amongst yourself was funnier." That was the funny part. Yeah, remind me not to do that again, though.
So just to let you guys know, just kind of let me know where you're watching from, and feel free to share this amongst your groups so that other people can find this useful and helpful. And if you have any questions, just throw them right in the comments. Put a couple of question marks in the beginning so that I will easily find them. But Annette, what would you say is? Let's talk about speaker tips. What's one of
Well, here's your funny moment. Number one, you didn't tell me I was doing this until tonight.
I told everybody that was out there watching me last night, and I left you a voicemail. This is what you do to good friends.
I left you a voicemail.
Go on.
Speaker tips. Well, first of all, they're basic. I mean, I do my speaking career the same way that I did my restaurant. Mm-hmm. It's all about them. It is all about them.
All about your audience.
It's all about your audience. It's all about what they need to hear, not about what you want to brag about. I mean, I know how to say I, a lot. I know how to do that. We did that in my family a lot. Good Italian, you had to wait till somebody take a breath and then you could jump in. But when you're speaking to your audience, why is this important to them? Why is it, for me, I talk about self-confidence in leadership and dispelling the imposter syndrome. I mean, there's some phenomenal amount of people out there that are successful. They think it's a mistake.
It's like something like 83%.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
83% of people suffer from the imposter syndrome. And
interpreted, in case you've never heard of it.
Thank you. Tell everybody.
For people who are successful, they think it's an accident. They think it's just luck. But I can guarantee you almost every one of those 83%, when something goes wrong, it's all on them. And I find it to be absolutely fascinating that the success is just a fluke and the disappointment or the failure is what they have created. They take full responsibility for that.
And so let's kind of turn that with entrepreneurs, because that's who most of my audiences are. They work for themselves.
Sure.
They're just starting out, maybe in the online business. And I think even a lot of entrepreneurs, at some point, when we're just starting out, we second guess ourselves as to like the stuff that I know, everybody knows that. Why? What makes me the specialist, the expert? And to realize that you're always several steps ahead of your clients.
Yeah.
And because you are several steps ahead of your clients, I mean, that's what makes you wonderful and an expert and to guide the way.
Right. But you don't think, and you shouldn't think of yourself as being several steps ahead of your client. You are there to help them. That automatically puts you several steps ahead because you're sharing what you know.
Okay.
You're sharing what you know, and you're listening to what they need. And that's the difference. You have to listen to what they need.
Yeah.
How can you help them? And unless you listen to them, and how many people, I'll ask your audience, how many people don't listen or don't listen to you?
That's a really good question. Type in how many moments today you felt like somebody was not listening to you. You were actually having a conversation with them, making a request, and they weren't listening to you whatsoever. Just to throw a number in the comments.
And one of the things that is very typical is that while you think you are listening to somebody, you're actually thinking of what you're going to ask them in return. And if you're doing that, you can't be listening.
Right.
Can't do two things at the same time. I can't do two things at the same time. Chewing gum and walking can be a challenge. But if you're thinking about what you're going to say next, you are not truly hearing what they're saying.
Right. I completely agree.
Yeah.
So, okay, what's another, while people kind of type in their answers, Beth just said 3 to 4. Deb just said 1. I was actually speaking to Deb today, so I hope I'm not the one she's talking about. Let's see. Let's talk about another speaker tip.
Another speaker tip. Oh.
All right, so it's about serving your audience.
Yes.
Actually, Annette did a Toastmasters talk today. So I'm just thinking that we can talk about one of the feedback slips that you got. And one of the feedback slips that she got said that you were great at pausing, powerful pauses.
Sometimes it's just me trying to think of the next thing I'm going to say, but it looks good. It looks good from the platform.
But let's tell them why we pause.
Because you have to give them time. You pause so they have time to absorb what you just said. Supposing that you just said something that mattered. You can pause all day long, but if it doesn't matter to them. My title today was Anything is Possible. And anything is possible. I went from almost homeless with 2 young children to getting, to having a very successful restaurant for 20 years. There's a 95% failure rate in the restaurant business.
Annette has an amazing, amazing story. Literally, did you just say you were homeless or you were almost homeless?
Well, the only difference,
the 2 babies.
The only difference between me and homeless was the people that I was working for had a house that they were getting ready to sell, and it was paid for. It was his mother's house, and they let me live there for free. That is the only difference between me and homeless. Okay. So I had a place, I had a roof over my head, and I had a roof over my children's head. Now, when I talk about the imposter syndrome, it's not some theory. That was me, for real. I had a sales job, and I was doing extremely well. And every day I was certain they were going to find out I was a fraud. Every day. Mm-hmm. To the point where it became so stressful, I found a way to quit. I didn't just walk in the door. I just found a way. It was reasonable to quit for those reasons. And now it was just ludicrous. But I was sure that they were going to find out I didn't know what I was doing. And
she was killing it in sales.
I was killing it in sales because it wasn't very good for my nerves, but I was still killing it in sales. And when I was successful, now being in the restaurant business, and this is not a brag, but I had the restaurant. I had it for 20 years. It went over the $1 million mark and almost to the $2 million mark. And I was sitting there at a conference one day, and they said that there are 10 million women-owned businesses in the United States, and less than 4% of those people take their business over the $1 million mark. And
so you were in the 4 percentile.
I was in the 4 percentile, and I sat there in all sincerity and went, "What's the big deal about that? I did that." It's not a big deal. Anybody can do that. Not anybody can do that. So it took me a really long time to understand who I was and what I accomplished. And that not 1 second of that did I do it alone.
Wow.
Not 1 second. I had the best staff in the world. I had a terrific partner. I hired him as my cook. It didn't take me very long to figure out. He knew everything I didn't know, which was boatloads. And we got along very well, so I offered him part of my business.
Wonderful.
I mean, offered it. Do you know how many people call me stupid for that? Stupid. That was stupid. And I went,
But actually really smart.
well, I gave him 25% of the debt. I mean, you can look at it that way. But
So let's talk about all right, so, pausing is critical.
oh, yeah, speaking.
Yeah, back to speaking.
Oh, yeah, speaking.
Yeah. So pausing is hugely powerful because it gives the audience space to think, space to answer a question, space to come up to formulate their own opinion, but it just gives your audience space. And a lot of times what I find in new speakers is that they get really uncomfortable with that silence. But that silence can be really, really powerful. So,
I'll give you an example. One of the things that I said today was, it's a Jim Rohn quote, that you are the culmination of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
I love that quote.
I love it too. But if if I say that, and I don't give you time to really think
about it,
what that means, and who are you who's the 5 people that you spend most time around? Are they whiners? Are they complainers? Are they negative? That's it. And now this is a different kind of a setting, so we can talk about it, and hopefully whoever just heard that is going, oh yeah, who am I? Who do I hang around with? But to just sit there and think about it for a minute, sometimes it could be frightening.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think probably the first time I ever heard that made me think, I need to go through my Rolodex. I need to go through my contacts and kind of like, just be super careful about who you are spending time with. What's another favorite speaker tip?
You could have given me warning, I would have come up with a few things.
There are so many things that we do so naturally. Actually, all right, so off the speaker tip, handheld microphone or lapel is your favorite?
Oh, I'm Italian. What do you think? I mean,
lapel.
Lapel.
So you can talk with your hands.
You get one. With a microphone, you're half. You can only say half the stuff.
I personally like the handheld wireless microphone these days. I used to like the lapel, but now I really like the handheld.
How come? Got it.
I don't have a really good reason why, but I think I like holding onto the microphone, and it definitely has to be wireless so that I can still walk around the audience and really interact with them. But by having the microphone, so here's probably part of my reason. I can, if I'm walking around and I ask a question, I can actually give the microphone to the audience member so that they can answer the question. It's my way of maybe putting somebody on the spot, kind of like I did with you tonight.
Yeah, where's my handheld? However, if you're going to do that, you can set it up ahead of time that you have a handheld, right? Because sometimes it could be a security blanket.
But also, part of the reason why I don't always like the handheld is because you never know the quality of the handheld microphone.
That's true too.
Because I don't like to have the microphone like so close to my face that the audience can't see any like my facial expressions that I'm making.
And if you do get excited and your hand is not where it needs to be, so the microphone is effective, you're also like, well,
right. So I just want to like peek at some of the comments, see some of the people that Beth says she also talks with her hands. Let's see, we got April who's here. Beth is, she's out in Ohio. I know that. I had an opportunity to meet her when I was out in Ohio earlier this year. We got Deb, and Deb did say that I wasn't that person that wasn't listening to her. Yeah, no kidding. So I'm trying to keep this just to 30 minutes. So one more like speaker tip.
Be organized. Be organized.
Say more about that.
With your message. If you're here and then you're over here, you want what you start. You want to bring them through the message that you want, and then you want to finish it with what makes sense and keep it all on the same topic. I mean, I'm famous for, not on stage, but I'm famous for, meow. And then, like my husband, he'll go, what are you talking about now?
She really is like this.
I really, and I go, oh, well, I'm sorry, I digress. You can't do that to your audience. You cannot do that to your attendees, to your audience, while you're on stage. Because then your message, and that's the only reason you're up there, is to give people the message that you want them to hear, that they need to hear. I mean, not everybody in your audience needs to hear what you have to say, but I can guarantee you there are one or two that you will impact more than you can ever imagine. And they're the ones that you're there for.
And those are the ones that you get the emails, the Facebook Messenger messages that say your book, your speech changed my life. Those are like the heartwarming, messages. When you walk off the stage, I spoke for a youth. I'm calling them they're not a youth group as in a church youth group, but it was an audience of teenagers. And when I finished, the woman who had hired me to come in said to me that was exactly what I wanted them to hear. And then the kids, got in line and they gave me hugs and said, thank you, I needed to hear that today. Mm-hmm. And that's so warming, like when we can share our message and it changes.
Yeah.
It helps somebody. And the point is that we also don't know how long that lingers on for, because that could, it could be years later and they'll remember something that we said, that they heard from a speech. And I mean, I think about how I got into personal development. It was a patient. I was working in a hospital, and there was something that I said, and the patient said to me, you probably would really like the book, The Magic of Thinking Big. As a good, there I was just 24 years old, I think. Took a piece of paper and I wrote it down. I said, if I don't get it today, I'll get it tomorrow. I still remember that. I mean, that wasn't a performance. He wasn't on stage, but sometimes just that little thing can really impact and change the rest of your life, because I still have that original copy.
When you say something that truly shifts in somebody's heart and head, it stays with them forever.
Yeah.
I mean, when whatever story you are sharing, it's always there. I mean, I remember things that somebody said to me 25 years ago. And it's amazing. And that's the difference. I got a letter once I was talking to the restaurant industry, and she was a manager. And she left, and of course she thought it was fabulous, really. But what I said, and actually a local place also remembered, that whatever I said, the way I put it, changed the way they did business, and literally they got their life back.
Wow.
I mean, she was a manager, and it shifted everything. And she said, and her employees started taking on more responsibility. And a pizza place recognized my name, said the same thing. I mean, and all I was doing was sharing what I did. And back to my waitstaff. I trusted my waitstaff to take care of my customers.
That's amazing.
And I put people where they belonged. I mean, you don't put a quiet person at the front desk. Yeah, just answer the phones, and meanwhile they just as soon sit in the back in the corner in the bottom of the file cabinet. And that was what it. So when you say something that shifts somebody's paradigm, the way they think and the way they feel, and then they act on it, it's there forever. Period. It's just there forever.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being on my Facebook training.
Oh yeah, thanks for the surprise visit.
And thank you for spending a little bit of your Friday with me, or depending on where you are in the world, this could be your Saturday. But Annette is an author. She's authored. Would you please tell them a little bit about your book in case?
My book is truly my pride and joy. My restaurant's a big deal, but my book, I had the privilege and the honor to serve a Brooklyn firehouse after 9/11, and went back again and brought them dinner again. And then 10 years later, went back with my former chef, and he now had a restaurant. And even 10 years later, I was so impacted by who these people are. So number one, it's dedicated to the New York City firefighters. It is not all about 9/11, even though there are a few 9/11 stories in there. But my basic premise for writing the book is that no one disagrees that firefighters are courageous and they run into big burning buildings, but that everyone has their own emotional burning buildings that they run into. Mm-hmm. They not only run into it, they put out the fire, they rebuild. That takes courage. It takes courage to take care of aging parents. It takes courage to take care of a challenged child. I mean, these are all courageous things. And not everybody, there's more people than not that don't ever give themselves the credit for taking on that enormous task and going through it with grace and dignity.
And what's the name of your book?
Finding the Leader Within.
Finding the Leader Within. You can find it on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
And I just realized, talking about 9/11, and that's Tuesday.
Yes, it is.
So,
and I won't be. I mean, it'll be the first year in a lot of years. But my husband is going through some physical health challenges, and he's being taken care of. So he wins. I'll stand by his side.
Yeah. Normally, Annette goes to New York.
I go to the firehouse.
Every year.
Yep.
So, and Beth, you said, I'm flattered that I did that for you when we met. It was such a joy to meet you in Ohio. And I hope that we get to have another one of those conversations over wine again. And
over wine. Did you notice that? Let's make sure the wine's in there.
We met. It was good wine too.
It was good.
And it was really good conversation. I'll tell you a little bit more about Beth afterwards. But thank you very much for spending some time with us. I'm Laurie-Ann, and this is my friend Annette Fazio, speaker and author. And
it was nice meeting everybody.
And you guys have a fabulous weekend.
Yeah.